Good evening, everybody. I'm Carol Fraser, as you well know, and tonight we have someone on our member community here who's going to go live to talk to you all about her eczema journey. Now, this young woman is called Asha Shah, and she works in HR in London, Human Resources. She's currently doing the 5K plan, and I discovered that's something the NHS are rolling out for people who are trying to meet health goals. But she has a remarkable story that she's going to share with us tonight. And once I join her here, I'm going to get her to tell you a little bit more about her. But Asha Shah has been suffering with eczema for over 15 years. She has a very rare case of eczema, and she's going to tell her story. So I'm just going to try and join her to the live this moment so that she can talk to you all. Just one moment.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, can you see me? I can see you quite clearly.
Yeah, I can see you. How are
Can
you?
hear and see me?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm very well. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on tonight and joining us. We're all really looking forward to hearing about your experience. I know you've told me quite a lot, and I feel it's going to be quite inspiring. And I'd like you, Asha, to just tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay. So hi everybody who's watching. I know there's some friends and family on the call as well. So it's great to all have your support and also the wider community. And Carol, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story on this platform. So I'm Asha, I'm 32 years old. I'm in London. I'm the youngest of 3 children and I am the only girl. My eczema journey has kind of been a long one, but it's been more severe sort of for the last 15 years or over 15 years. My eczema journey, I had it when I was small, but it wasn't as bad as it did get. So just after a tonsillectomy when I was 11, my eczema journey started, and I have a photo here for you. So this is an old school photo, and this was the color of my skin back then. As you can see, it's as you can see, this is no as you can see, it's no longer me, but it's taught me a lot along the way. So my journey kind of starts after a tonsillectomy, and I started.
Were you at that time? That was when you were 11 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just finished year 7, was going to go into year 8, and I think it was around the January of the of the January of year 8. That's when it kind of started, because that's correct. Because my brother turned 18, I think, at that time. So I actually started with a big lump about that size on the back of my neck, which was filled with pus and liquid. I went to sleep as normal and woke up and my pillow was covered in liquid. At the same time, my face kind of randomly, not even randomly, came out in blistering weeping spots. And at that time, pardon?
On your face?
Yeah, on my face. At that time, I remember I woke up one morning and Mum was like, "Oh, it looks fine, just go to school." I was like, "No," and I cried and I cried and I cried because I didn't want to go to school because of the way it looked. We saw the doctor. The doctor was like, "Oh, it's just an eczema infection," and that was the first time I'd ever heard of an eczema infection, because I think, yes, I was young, but I don't think anyone ever realizes when eczema gets infected, it can really, really get infected, and hence the pus. Anyway, so we went to the doctors, a course of antibiotics that seemed to do the trick. Throughout the course of the antibiotics, I then had a reaction to penicillin. So the reaction to penicillin landed me in hospital. It was the eczema that didn't agree with the penicillin. So there was a lot of things going on at that time. Anyway, so moving forward, they cleared it, and then I kept getting repeat infection, and I think the bug was called Staphylococcus aureus or something. It's a very long name, but it's very common. Everybody has this bacteria on their skin.
It stacks for short, don't they?
Yeah. So this bacteria is on everybody's skin, whether you have eczema or not, as I've been told. So, you know, we went through the pace of the creams, we went through the pace of long-term antibiotics. And this was ongoing for 2 or 3 years. I got to year 10, I had another hospital admission. And the reason for the hospital admission was the antibiotics had stopped working by a pill because the infections were so reoccurrent. They kept giving me them to kind of minimize the infection and just kind of stop it. But of course, everybody knows antibiotics stop working. So I was admitted to hospital again, and this time to have intravenous antibiotics through, oh, sorry, my headphones have just fallen out, through this hand here and this hand here. I still have the scars actually on this hand. I don't know if you can see them. I still have scars.
Oh, I can see, yes.
Yeah. So at the same time, I had a patch of eczema here. And basically, I carried on going the way it was and, you know, did everything the doctor said, back and forth to the hospital. As well as dealing with the eczema at that time, I was dealing with the harsh realities of growing up. And that included the horrible words, especially because back then eczema wasn't a known thing. So, you know, obviously you're growing up, you want people to kind of, you try to fit in with a circle, you're trying to grow up, have a normal teenage upbringing, and you're also battling this thing that you don't know what's happening to you, and essentially you're mutating.
The best way I can look at this time, which is year 10, you would have been what, 11, 12, 13, 12 going on 13?
14 going on to 15. So
14 going on to 15, just for those who don't know, you know, what years. And that is a tender age because your hormones are changing as well at that teen, you know, you're more self-conscious about yourself. So you can just imagine, can only imagine how you felt.
Yeah, so again, along that line, my eyebrows kind of began to faint, my hair stopped growing, and actually my hair was falling out in chunks. So this was a result of all the direct medicines, you know, everything that was going on internally. This was a direct you know, cause of that. And then in year 11,
side effects of the medication, you're saying?
Yeah, and also the fact that
the antibiotics and the intravenousses, would you say? Or?
Yeah, that as well as having eczema, because those of you who know a bit about eczema is actually your immune system, is actually to do with your immune system, as I've been told plenty of times before. So after the year 10, go on.
No, sorry, I just want to revisit, you said something very important, and a lot of eczema sufferers do not realize this, but it's an overactive immune system, and it's weakened, and that's what some people may call, well, not some, it's called an autoimmune disease. There are other autoimmune diseases, but people do not realize that eczema is an autoimmune disease. So thank you for pointing that out. Sorry.
That's not a problem. So as part of the treatment plan, after that hospital admission in year 10, I was given UVB treatment. For those of you who don't know what UVB treatment is, it's essentially you walk into a fridge, which is like a sunbed, and they give you controlled exposure of the sunlight, essentially. but with the UVB. Unfortunately, this didn't work for me. I kept getting reoccurring infections again. So every time I got an infection, they had to stop the treatment, which was annoying, but I guess they had to protect me the best way they could. So yeah, that went on. And then in year 11,
were you having the how often were you going back for the UV treatment? And
so the UVB,
yeah.
So the UVB
and for what
treatment.
Period of time? Sorry.
Okay, so the UVB treatment was 3 sessions a week. It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it starts at a very small dosage. I think it's about just under a minute, and I think the most I ever got up to was 3 minutes, and then that's all I could handle because I kept getting infections. And then they actually found that it wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. From what I understand, the UVB treatment is basically supposed to stop the cell reproduction as quick as it does, but I'm not really a doctor, and it was quite some time ago. So yeah, anyone please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this is from what I remember. So the following year, we went to the US. We went on a family holiday. My mum, my dad, my brother, and my other brother.
And how old were you then?
15. So 15, because I'm a June baby. So we went just before my GCSEs. So the GCSEs would have been sat in the May. I went in April. So we went to America. The sun exposure did help over there. And actually, it did me the world of good just to have a bit of rest. When we returned to the UK, everything was okay for 2 weeks. And then I was back in hospital. This time I was back on a hospital bed, right, in the middle of my GCSEs, or about to begin my GCSEs, and I was put on bed rest. And I think one of the causes, looking back on it, stress. Most people who have eczema understand that stress is a trigger. Stress can present in a variety of ways, in everybody, and I think sometimes we don't even realize we're stressed. But at that time, I was a little bit adamant that I would do something about my GCSEs. But I also realised that I actually didn't go to school quite a lot of the time because, one, I was not able to go to school because I was so conscious of my eczema, and second of all, because of the names that was happening. And actually, I think in schools, back then, I think, there wasn't much education available about eczema, but I think, I can see how far schools are coming in helping to tackle, the nastiness that goes around. And actually, the children nowadays probably have it a little bit worse because they've got things like cyberbullying. So they can't really get.
Tell me something. So when you talk about schools bringing more awareness, is that to bullying or stress, or are you saying specifically about eczema? What education are the schools giving? What is it exactly they're doing?
So I think bullying is a big thing that they're doing. They're working. I know, no school is perfect, and I've worked in a school, and I understand that actually schools are under so much pressure with things like bullying and trying to control it. But I also think parents are more aware of things like eczema, and I think yes, you will get the odd person, a child or somebody saying to you, "Oh, what is that on your face?" And because they genuinely don't understand. But I also think in this lockdown period, even though some children have been really, really targeted, I think a lot more parents are coming down harsher on bullying, and some schools are probably working harder to stop the bullying, and saying unkind things, to teaching children that yes, we're all different in our own way, and learning to accept one another the way each person is, rather than saying unkind things. So that's what I mean by the bullying and the long-term talking about. Yeah.
It's I mean, my daughter at around the same age as you, at her in secondary school at the age of 11, was bullied. It did not do favors for her eczema, and that's when it peaked. But it's good to hear that they're doing. There wasn't a lot around, even the inclusion of diversity and training on bullying. So, but it's good to hear there is now.
But I'd like to think that there, you know, I'm not saying any school is perfect, but what I am saying is actually looking back when I was at school and now I can see, you know, there's a lot more open discussion about things rather than if that makes sense. And I mean, I was
Yes,
only at school. I left school in 2004 and we're now in 2020. And if in 16 years there's been a bit of progress, some progress is better than no progress when it comes to things like bullying. And I think more and more children and parents are aware of the situation when it comes to bullying and nasty words, and especially with technology nowadays, I think, you know, parents are on it. But going back to what I was saying, so the hospital admission in when I was 15, 16, that admission will stay with me for life. And the only reason that admission will stay with me for life is there was a girl who was in a separate room to me because I had to be isolated because of my infection and obviously not being able to give it to other children on the paediatric ward. There was a girl who I went to primary school with, and she was in a long-term hospital. She was in that hospital long-term. And I remember that was one of the very last times I saw her before she passed. So that hospital admission was kind of, you know, there. Also, when I was then 16, I was diagnosed. Yeah, but I think those little things actually teach you so much more about life. Obviously, I was a bit young, but I think, you know, we all have to grow up, and I think, like we said about teenagers and stuff, they find their feet and they learn a lot more about the world around them. Around 15, 16. So I did my GCSEs. I then had another holiday to Tenerife. This was the first holiday that my mum and dad had allowed for my two big brothers to go with, and my couple of my cousins. This was the first time I was on holiday without them. It was a real experience, but actually the sun there really, really helped. Started college, and then I was diagnosed with an eye condition. The eye condition I was diagnosed with is called keratoconus, and it affects 1 in 3,000 people. One of the things they had to do with that was operate, and they had to do a corneal transplant. Now, my eczema at this point was quite bad that I had it inside of my eye. So when the eczema goes inside the eye, it's called sclerosis. Before they could even operate, they had to give me a long-term dosage of drops. And then after the operation, they had to put me on something called cyclosporin. Cyclosporin is a immunosuppressant. So it keeps the eczema down, but it also stops the rejection of the transplant. So I went through a course of that. Unfortunately, you know, that didn't go to plan. And then I sort of carried on, like hospital visits, creams, in and out of the hospital cycle, in and out of the kind of medical cycle of antibiotics, you know, whatever. But what we did begin to find is we began to find a pattern of triggers. Now, one of the triggers I had, and we noticed, was wedding food. Now, going to Indian weddings, they're usually lush, and, you know, the food is generally quite good. But unfortunately, I found that I had a real allergy to most wedding food, and that was only because there was something in there like tamarind and lemon juice, and we used to find this as a trigger for eczema. So in the end, I couldn't even eat at the weddings. I was literally taking a packed lunch. Any event that was hosted by the community, family, etc., it was generally a packed lunch, or if it was family, you know, I was lucky that I was catered for in some respects. Well, actually, no, I was always catered for at family events. And so we carried on going through the cycle, had another operation on this eye, because I have the disease in both eyes, and we carried on with the general, and there was some a sign of kind of it was beginning to ease off a little bit as I was getting older. 2015, I'm fast forwarding because I'm going to leave some time for questions. 2015, fast forward, my brother got engaged, and actually it was
sorry, you would have been what age?
2015, I would have been 27. if my maths is correct. So fast forward, my brother got engaged. So we were packing gifts for my sister-in-law. One of the gifts we were packing included nuts, and we were making like little bags of like different types of nuts, and it was literally taking it from one to put into the bag. I did that once. I came up in hives all the way up here. And that was the first time that we realised, actually, I have a nut allergy. And this was the day before my brother's traditional Indian engagement ceremony. We was quite fortunate enough that we had some Piriton in the house. So Piriton is one of my go-tos that we use to help if there is a flare-up or if there is an allergic reaction. And it was able to be controlled. So the next day was the engagement, and that went absolutely fine. So it was a pretty stable year. So as I've got older, the eczema got better. And then from about November 2015, I ran myself into the ground. I had a flu jab, and I didn't realise that actually I reacted really badly with the flu jab. So the flu jab, but the thing with me at that point is actually I just kept going. Like I was one of those people that, oh, it's just a cold, it will go, it will go, it will go. But what I actually did was run myself into the ground. That year, so in the November, so my sister-in-law's sister got married in the November that year. I wasn't at the wedding, but I was, but actually I went away, I was away, and my jumper started sticking to my skin all the way down here. So there was a sign of infection. And that infection was because I was run down. But I didn't think how it was going to affect me. So we had another round of steroids, we had another round of different antibiotics. And actually, I'd love to remember the name, but I actually can't remember the name of the antibiotic I was given. But it helped to clear. Christmas, I was up and down. Sorry?
What was the main cause for you having got so run down?
I think I was stressed. I think I was always out. I don't think I actually took any time for me to rest. And as we know, in order for your body to heal, you do need to rest. You need to be able to, really rest. So I think that year, Christmas, I had an infection, but carried on as normal. I to be honest, it became so part of my life that I was just like, oh, it's just another infection. It's just another infection. And I began to mentally understand it that way.
Because you were getting used to all of these things happening to your body. So to you, it was, I mean, one thing I have to say is I have to commend you for just being a warrior and just kind of trudging on. But yes, please continue with the story.
Yeah. So in January 2016, I remember it, January the 5th, 2016, I basically, on my right breast, had eczema had formed, but this time it was sticking to my bra. It was actually sticking to all my clothes. At that point, I went to the out of hours service at my local hospital, and they were going to send me home with just antibiotics. They re-examined it, and actually at that point, they thought it might have been breast cancer, because breast cancer presents itself in a similar way. And from that, I had a hospital admission. This time, the hospital admission was different. As well as having a drip, I had the IV, and I also was told to bed rest, because when your body is fighting infection, your heart rate goes through the roof, because it's trying to, your body's trying to heal itself, and it's trying to get to it. In order to do that, the blood needs to be pumped around your body a lot quicker. The heart rate was too high, so they put me on bed rest. Now, much to my disgust, I hated staying in the hospital, and one of the things that I really took for granted was washing my hair. But actually, the eczema had got into my hair, so it was all here and all sort of down the back, and it was weeping. As you can see here, so I've only got I've only got like some scarring here, but you can see that actually this is my
Yeah.
skin currently. But this was a lot thicker then.
Mm.
So it was, I want to call it like elephant skin actually. But yeah, it was very thick. It was horrible. I had it all the way down here. It wasn't very nice. I remember being needles here and needles here. And I just remember being in the hospital, and I remember not wanting to see anybody. Obviously, I have a really supportive family who all came to see me. And, you know, I then had a 10-day stay in hospital, and I was given phenylhexidine. I was given, and I can't remember, I was given another antibiotic, but that antibiotic was so strong. When I slept, I was having hallucinations, because that's another side effect of it. But I completed the course. And then after that, I was at home for 6 weeks off work, just resting, just giving my body time to relax. And I'd like to say since then, later on that year, my brother got married. And actually since then, it's gotten so much more better. And then last year, we installed a water softener in the house. And that helped a dramatic amount with my eczema, because actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but water softener is kind of, it's helped my skin tremendously. It keeps it moisturized. And it's, you know, my hair's growing back to how it was.
Wow.
So I had like thick curly hair as a young girl. My hair didn't grow. It actually was quite depressing that my hair didn't grow. And I remember the amount of weddings we had in the interim period where my skin was really bad, and I would literally cry every time it came to my hair, it came to makeup, because obviously I couldn't wear makeup either, because that was a trigger at that, you know, back then. But actually, I'm quite fortunate now. I'm able to use makeup. I actually even now do face masks, which is quite nice. The face mask helps.
I just wanted to ask you a question about the water softener. So how are you doing that?
So the water softener is, I won't mention the company because it's not an ideal platform, but it's connected to our main supply, and there's a block of salt that goes in there, and that filters around the whole house. So the drinking water we have is soft, is you know, salt water. The shower water is that. Everything we do now has that. So actually, it's amazing. Something, because we used to fight when we used to go on holiday, the water was so much nicer on the skin than it was coming back. So we're not actually sure if that was a trigger or not. We're not actually sure that, you know, if the water that we had abroad, like the soft water, and then coming back to this, kind of upset the body a little bit.
Because you're in London. In London, we do have hard water.
Yeah. So, and then I think one of the things that I've learned a lot along the way, and one of the things that I've learned is do what makes you happy, and, you know, look after yourself, and, you know, I mean, obviously stress is a part of your everyday life. It's a part of who we are as people. It's a part of our human DNA. But one of the things that I really have found is actually having that me time is so important. So if that means, you know, I read a book. If that means, one of the things that I've also trained myself to do is put my phone on do not disturb. So if I'm going to bed, my phone is on do not disturb, which means any call coming through, unless it's on an emergency list, it's not coming through to me, which is really quite handy, because then I don't have to wake up in the middle of the night, or, you know, I'm not disturbed. The other thing that's really helped me is a bit of spiritual healing, I think, as well. I think along the way there have been some really unkind things about what people have said, and I think it's learning to forgive those people, because that forgiveness is only burning me. It's not hurting anybody else, because no one is going to remember what they said to you in a specific moment. So forgiveness is one of the things that's really important. And I think one of the things that really stands out to me, there's two major things that really, really stand out to me. And one of them was someone saying to me, I'm never going to amount to something. And that has stayed with me throughout the last 15 years. And also about a year ago, I was in town, a year or two ago, I was with my mum in town, and a woman came up to me and she said to me, was you in a fire? Your face looks burnt. Now, at that particular time, it was hard, but actually I was able to reflect on it and say, actually, it's her, not me. And actually, my mum has pretty much been quite a saviour in all of this, as well as my dad, because they've had to sit in the hospitals with me. I remember a time every Friday night, where are we going tonight? We're going to the hospital. And also, I think even the boys have been like real support, because actually having a sibling that's always in hospital isn't easy on them either. Because let's face it, we like I said, I'm the youngest of three, and I'm the only girl, and it can get hard sometimes, especially if one person is getting all the I wouldn't say attention, but like if a parent has 3 children, obviously all 3 children get the same time. But if one child is particularly ill and is always in the hospital, then obviously the other 2 kind of get left out. So I think one of the other things is a good support system. Like I've got some amazing friends. Family isn't next to nothing. I mean, everyone's been really, really supportive. And actually, I would also say my sister-in-law, who's kind of been on this journey with me, because she's kind of been a part of the family for 10 years. And it's she's kind of seen the ups and downs that's happened as well. So I think having a strong support unit is really important, as well as everything else. But I also think, get your bloods done. Don't give up with the NHS or your healthcare provider. Get those tests, because it was only my most recent hospital admission that got me my allergy test. And that allergy test showed up things that I was like, really? And I'm a vegetarian, so some of them I didn't really care about. But actually, in Asian cooking, when there's nuts and things, and you want to eat those yummy Indian sweets, you want to eat the things, you have to think twice. So perseverance has been a big thing that's been taught. And yeah, it's frustrating, but I get this. So I didn't want to leave this too long. I want to leave some time for some questions.
Listen, no, I could listen to you all night, and it hasn't been too long. It's only 7:33. And there were some questions I was going to ask, which you kind of answered. I mean, you've given people some very good insight into your coping strategies and good advice on the treatments as well.
I've got one last.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got one last thing as well. And one of the things, so you can see my T-shirt says, "Be kind to your mind." That's the best thing that I've ever heard anyone is. Yes. If it gets too much, I know it's easier said than done. I have generalized anxiety disorder, and that's a combination of things. And COVID didn't really help me, but there are people out there. Be kind to yourself. Eczema is only on the skin. Your rest of your body's fine. You haven't got cancer. You haven't got COVID. It's something that when you learn how to deal with it, it will help you. And you know what? I think one of the biggest things is just, persevere.
Yes. You certainly have persevered. The tenacity, my gosh, that you expressed, and what you have been through and still going through. And you even mentioned that you're doing this 5K plan. Is this an NHS plan to fitness? Tell us a little bit about this. How does it help you?
Okay, so When lockdown started, because I'm currently on azathioprine for my eczema, azathioprine is another immunosuppressant. Unfortunately, I was one of the few million that had to shield, so I couldn't leave the house for quite some time. And then, lockdown began to ease. So in July, I took up the 1 million step challenge for Diabetes UK, which I completed successfully in September, and then because I work from home, I don't get out as much as if I was in the office, I'd be commuting to the office, walking up and downstairs, seeing people, blah, 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 blah. So one of the things that after completing the 1 million step, I was like, right, I need something else to put my focus on, to get me out of the office, to help release some of those day-to-day pressures, and just getting out and getting some fresh air. So one of my cousins very kindly, we both decided we're going to do this. So we have just completed week 1, which I have to say was very interesting, because yesterday it was absolutely pouring down with rain and we both went outside.
Pouring down, it was rushing. And you went out there and did it.
Yeah. So
well done.
I think one of the things is that we couldn't see when we were running. We both wear glasses. We both couldn't see where we were going. I ended up taking my glasses off just so that I could run. But actually, this is another coping strategy, I think, because it just takes your mind off everything else. You feel a little bit like you've done something active. And I think being active is one of those things that I didn't realise when I was in the office. Actually, I was still able to go out for a walk at lunchtime. I'd be walking to the station. I'd be walking from the station to the office, on the other side. So there was my daily form of exercise. I'd be walking at lunchtime, walking back to the station, and, all that sort of stuff. But I think lockdown hit, and that was really hard, because I remember not being able to go outside. And I'm, in some respects, quite a social person. And, it was one of those things that actually hit me really hard, not to be able to see, any of my friends, my friends' children, my nieces, nephews, cousins, family, everybody. That kind of hit me. But I was lucky that we had Zoom, and we had FaceTime, and we had quizzes, and, but it was one of those things where actually the physical interaction you have when you rather than like this, face-to-face, having that face-to-face conversation, doing something simple like going out for a meal, that's really, that's the things we take for granted. And I think in some ways that was my form of release. Like, after work, go out, go see your friends. One of the things I spoke about azathioprine very recent, a couple of minutes ago, and azathioprine is an immunosuppressant, and it is something that the hospital have to monitor. And there is a whole range of drugs, and you have to be really careful with these, because if you become ill, this will stop. This will make it 10 times worse, the illness.
Wow.
So a simple
so
cold.
You have to keep yourself well. You make a conscious. I mean, you do make a conscious effort. You're a very strong motivator, just whether you know it or not, talking the way you are. But you're your own, champion as well.
Yeah.
I mean, going through what you've gone through, and you're doing your mindfulness and these coping strategies, and doing something for others, girl. that's an amazing feat. I mean,
thank you.
What other words of wisdom can you offer people out there who are in a bad place, and basically who are in pain, who are feeling really stressed, and obviously everybody is feeling a level of stress, not being able to do the things they had done. What would be your words to them tonight?
There ain't no sunshine without rain. And the only reason I say that, some people would put it as there's a light at the end of every tunnel, but actually, in order to get to the good, you have to go through the bad. And actually, the only reason that's coming to my mind now is currently it's the Hindu festival of Navratri, which is Garba, and it's good. It's evil. Sorry, it's goodness over evil. So actually, you have to go through the bad to get to the good, and actually perseverance is everything. Yes, there are going to be days that are bad, but make sure, like, I'm here to talk if anybody ever wants to talk. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your clinician, but everybody, you're not alone. And I think in this time, that's my words of wisdom, I would say.
And also, joined the group, we've called it Eczema Skincare with Carol Fraser, but there has been and always has been other elements to the group. And but fundamentally, it's a platform where people can communicate together and share what they're going through. It's not just about having your eczema food and nutrition, and me talking about things that help nutritionally, diet-wise, topically, but this is a platform. The eczema group is a platform for people to be able to reach out to others as well. And I'm so happy that you're here on this group.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other things is just remember your eczema is different to everybody else's. Just remember that, because people will always try to want to help you. But just remember, and one of the other things, sorry, I forgot to mention earlier, is when I had my last hospital admission, they found protein levels were quite high in my urine, which meant actually your eczema is going to be a little bit higher. So I don't know if anyone knows about protein and eczema and how they're related, but actually it's quite an interesting case study out there, which I've obviously read about, but yeah.
And that contributes to the inflammation as well.
Yeah.
In the body.
Yeah.
So where are you at now in terms of how are you managing in terms of your condition just now? What are you?
I avoid trigger foods. At the minute, I'm quite lucky that I'm at home, so I don't really have to deal with the hustle and bustle and pollution of the city. The other thing is lots of water. Well, when I try to, and actually try and eat healthily. I know there's probably a couple on the call who know that, you know, I love a sort of cheeky breakfast or 2 out or whatever, but eat sensibly. You know, if you find something's not working with you, don't eat it. So I've actually recently changed from having proper cow's milk to oat milk, and that's not for eczema, but because it doesn't sit well with me, I just stopped having it. And I've cut down on heavy protein-based meals because I also find that's a marker. So I'm beginning to understand my triggers. Being a vegetarian and having allergies is still quite difficult, but you find a way. Like people say, oh, how are you a vegetarian? And how don't you eat this? And how don't you eat that? Well, actually, if you don't think about it, you don't have it. I used to love, up until 2010, I used to love eating chicken, burgers. I used to love all of that. But actually, it's about everything in moderation now.
Yeah.
So, great. You know, things like sugar. Sugar's a trigger as well. So it's about understanding your body and what your body can take. And, you know, if you can't have it, don't have it.
That's right. Well, you certainly a clear example of some of the things that people can do. Mindfulness, that's so important as well. And I hope that people will engage a bit more and really speak out about, you know, their experiences and what they're going through. It's not just about what's worked for people, but it's, you know, if people need to, you know, express how they're feeling on the group and share things, that may just help someone else, because you'll connect with someone who may be going through something similar or something else, and it's good to have a platform to be able to release. And I know some of your family are supporting you because they joined the group to come on here. You've got, you know, warriors behind you as well, which is great. It's we have a community here. We all stand together, so always reach out, always talk. That's what
and reach out, and I think just by talking, even if I've helped one person today, you know, that will be sufficient, because that one person will help another one person, and hopefully the domino effect will work.
Somebody has a question here. I just want to read it out to you, Asha. And the person says, is that mainly through trial and error then? And that would, you know, in terms of what your triggers are and what you've identified.
Okay, so my allergies have actually changed, and allergies normally, from what I've been told, change over 7 years. So up until recently, I couldn't have anything with lemon, and slowly we've started introducing small bits into it. So it is trial and error, but it is also understanding actually there might be a whole, like for instance, citrus, there might be a whole group of things. Like there's only, for instance, if my mum's cooking something with tomatoes, there's only one brand that we can use. And if there's anything else, it will put me right out of balance. So it's
share
about
that. What brand is that then? So one brand you can use and other brands you know. Which one would that be?
so we use the Napolina brand. Now, and we don't use it often, but when we do use it, we only use that brand. And the only reason behind that is because the citricity, I don't even know if that's a word, the citricity is too much and it makes me itch. So it's a trigger. But actually, one thing I can't use is creams. I have to use ointment and oil base. So things like Epiderm. So in the shower, I can only really use water because sometimes, or the Epiderm, because sometimes the other stuff really, really triggers. So yeah, I guess a lot of it is trial and error, but some of it is using your common sense as well.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, there is such a thing, I would say. I don't know if you've heard of this, and this is what you've kind of done in yourself and found out for yourself. Your body tells you exactly. You can get a sense of what your triggers are. If not, and you're confused or you have a suspicion, I provide a list of, and I put it on the group. There are trigger foods. There are certain trigger foods. Perhaps if you're really unclear, start with what you call an elimination diet. So you take that out of your diet for a period of about, say, 14 days. And on the 14th day, introduce that item back in, just slowly. If you can have it in the morning, afternoon, and around dinner time, just have it, and then see how your body reacts within the next 24 to 48 hours. And continue with that with the trigger foods. But if you suspect it's specifically something you're almost sure of, do that practice and do that with other foods as well that could well be triggers that are quite common. But there's somebody else who's got another question for you here, Asha.
Okay.
Now, this person was saying that there's a treatment that you can be given, where you can be given injections to reduce or clear the eczema, and they're asking, would you consider it?
Okay, so I know that there's a drug called Dupixent. I've read a lot about this, and apparently Dupixent is not licensed to be used in the UK, which is the injection. But I know in the US they are currently using it. Now, I've heard multiple things about this. So I asked my consultant, "Can I have this injection?" And actually, I got told it's not available here on the NHS. Now, I went on another forum on Facebook, and actually I was advised otherwise. It is available here in the UK, but I think the cost element is far greater, and I think the NHS are so restricted on what they can and can't do. They're reluctant to give it, and I think that speaks volumes because I mean, I've got to follow up in a few weeks' time, and I'm going to ask my GP consultant again, can I have this? But actually, I think if there is an injection that helps, why not? If it's going to help, I mean, I've done a lot of reading on Dupixent, and I think, yes, I would try it. Because I met a girl on another eczema forum who has the exact same eye condition as me, has really severe eczema, and she's on it. And she said it's helped her so much, and if there is something out there that can help people, why not?
Thank you for answering that question. Somebody else is asking here, when you are in a restaurant, are they understanding of allergies, or have you met resistance?
So I'm quite fortunate that the people who I go to a restaurant with normally know of allergies and know what I'm allergic to. And there hasn't been much resistance. And I think I know myself, if I'm having an allergic reaction, like last year, we went to a restaurant and I ate something, and then we went to a show and I sat there itching throughout the whole show. but I didn't realize it had it. Now, some restaurants are really good and they'll ask you your allergies, they'll put it on their menus, but there are some restaurants still that don't put allergy warnings onto their thing, and that's quite dangerous. And we've been hearing in the media about lots of people suing like Pret and for things of allergies. So I think there needs to be a lot more awareness and a lot more work around allergies, and also on trains. I was on a train once and there was a woman and she was just peeling pistachios and she left a huge pile on the train. Now, if a nut allergy sufferer like myself went and touched that could have been really bad for me, because that could have been, really itchy for me, or, God forbid, it would close up my throat or something. So I think there needs to be a little bit more work in, in public spaces, in offices where, But restaurants, I think restaurants are getting better.
So somebody's said, I think they're talking along the lines of these injections. Someone else is saying it's coming out as a trial in the UK, as they had got invited to do the injections, but they're saying it has serious side effects. So I don't know enough about it to comment on that. And I'm sure they've done a lot of their research, but it is coming out as in trials. And also, someone's asking here, what are the worst side effects you have had from the medications you've been on?
Weight loss. No, sorry, my weight's gone up, not loss, sorry. I have osteopenia, which is a condition of the bones. My bones are a lot weaker than they would have been had I not had them. And that's a direct result of the steroids. So the weight gain has been a huge one, I think, for me. And I think in some respects the hallucinations, because actually those hallucinations when you're on some of the drugs, they're doing what they're doing, but those hallucinations can be absolutely crazy. And actually, if you're not careful, you could end up self-harming or worse. I hate to think about it, but they're horrible. And the taste, the metal taste.
How long did you go through those hallucinations for when you was on those drugs? For as long as you were taking them, they were giving them to you, or
so steroids.
Yeah.
So steroids, I still get the hallucination. So if I ever have to have steroids again, I have to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening, because once I'm on those steroids make me hungry as well. But steroids can give you hallucinations, and I think the worst ones are when you get them at night, when you get the hallucinations at night.
Yeah, that's right. I think at night is the worst. So, I mean, my daughter suffered from when she was suffered PTSD from bullying. She had terrible, psychotic episodes and hallucinations as well. But once you came off the drug, did it stop or did it linger for a time? Just interested to know.
I'm trying to think. So it's been so long since I've been on steroids, touch wood. But actually,
remind us the name of think so people remember what that was.
Of what?
Remind us of the name of that drug that gave you these hallucinations, so people can remember.
So one of them was prednisolone, and prednisolone is a common steroid that everybody gets. Whatever infection you've got, even if it's a chest infection, if they're going to put you on steroids, they're going to put you on prednisolone. So prednisolone has a wide usage. It's used in any sort of infection. So I've had it for chest infections, I've had it for eczema. So prednisolone is one of them. And on phenylfexidine, and phenylfexidine, I remember that gave me a metal taste, if I'm correct. Yeah, and I was waking up in cold sweats, but that was also steroids. And because I was using the two together, I'm not sure if it was the phenylfexidine and steroids mixed together, or if it was just one or the other, but they were the two.
Thank you for reminding us. And I'm so happy that you took the opportunity to come and tell your story. You've got it. I just think you've an exceptional story, Ashas, and you are an exceptional lady. And thank you so much for sharing what you have with us. And I hope that it's actually helped some people tonight in some way.
Me too.
And see you as an example You're a fighter, girl. I'll tell you, you're very, I mean,
failure isn't an option.
I tend to use the word strong, but you know, it's when we're faced with adversity, that's when we use that tenacity. And I liked what you said about there's no sunshine without rain. Is that right?
Yeah,
there's a song,
there
actually.
isn't.
I've got this song in my head. I'm sure I've heard a song.
There is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I've got it playing in my head.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to finish up. Is there anything else you want to say, or is there any other questions? I'm just going to quickly ask one more question if there is any, but is there anything lastly?
Just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on today and talk about my experiences, and I really hope that even if I've helped one person, then that one person can help someone else. Just keep talking, and I think keeping the conversation line open is really important, because actually we're all in this together. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to read out a comment here, Asha, from someone here who says, Asha and Carol, do y'all know that you both are pretty amazing? Yes, we do.
Thank
Asha, you believe so? We
Thank
are.
you.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
You're all pretty amazing. Thank you so much, Asha, for tonight. Thanks for coming in here. And if anybody else has a story to tell, experience they want to share, no matter how big or small in your eczema journey, we would love to hear from you. Just mention it in the comments and I'll get in touch with you. Over to you, Asha.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for everybody that listened, and thank you to all my family and friends who joined me to give me their support. Love you all.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And we're going to say goodnight now, but thanks for tuning in. Keep tuning in for more stories, and we'll say goodnight.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.